We are introduced to a future world where humanity has destroyed the environment through the excessive use of fossil fuels. After many years of war and conflict due to the lack of food and resources, the governments of the world decided to implement a rather dramatic solution. Everyone undergoes the same advanced surgical procedure when they turn 16, designed to turn them into the best version of themselves, perfect in every way. Once the operation is complete, their need for conflict disappears, leading to a world without war. The people who have had the procedure done are known as Pretties, and those who haven't are called Uglies. The Pretties are allowed to live inside of the futuristic city, while the Uglies have to stay in the dormitories outside the city until their 16th birthday. We are then introduced to Tally as she is previewing what she will look like after her surgery. She then gets a message from her friend Nose, who she goes to meet on the roof. As the two look out at the Pretties having fun in the city, we learn that it's Nose's last night as an Ugly. Tally is jealous as she still has 3 months until she gets to be a Pretty, but she is still excited for her friend. She makes him promise to keep the scar on his hand, and we see that Tally has the same one. They then agree to meet at the bridge in a month, so Nose can tell her all about the city. The next day, they go to the ceremony where they are told about all of the amazing benefits of the procedure before Nose gets called away with the rest of the candidates. The weeks then go by with Tally messaging Nose daily, but never getting a response. After a month without a reply, she decides to go to the bridge on the night they decided anyway, hoping that he still shows up. After not seeing him at the bridge, she decides to break into the city to find him, wearing a mask that was discarded by one of the Pretties to blend in. She finally manages to find Nose, but he now only answers to his real name, Paris. He tells her that she shouldn't have come, and she sees that he no longer has the scar on his hand. Tally then gets caught by a face scanner and has to run, grabbing a bungee jacket and jumping off the ledge. The jacket breaks her fall, and she continues to run, making her way to the bridge while being followed by an airship. She then gets saved by another Ugly named Shay after being spotted by the airship, and the two manage to outmaneuver the craft on Shay's hoverboard. The two then become fast friends, with Shay teaching Tally how to ride a hoverboard, and Tally showing Shay how to manipulate technology. They even find out that they have the same birthday. One day, while talking about their upcoming surgeries, Shay tells Tally that she's not going to go through with it, and she's going to go to a place called the Smoke instead. Tally says that she thought the smoke was a myth, but Shay tells her it's real. She then asks Tally to meet her in the old ruins outside the city later that night. Tally agrees, and we next see the two of them standing in an old building, with Shay lighting a small fire. She tells Tally that she's calling David, the leader of the rebellion, and he will be there soon to guide them both to the Smoke. She says that the Smoke is a place where people are free to be themselves, where everyone is treated as an equal, regardless of what they look like. Tally tells her that this is all too sudden, and she doesn't want to go. So Shay gives her some coded directions so she can find them in case she changes her mind. The two then hug before parting ways. A month later, while waiting for her turn for the surgery, Tally gets taken to meet with the leader of the city, Dr. Cable. The doctor tells her that her surgery is going to be postponed until she can help them to find Shay, who they believe was brainwashed by the leader of the rebellion, David. She says that David is dangerous, and he is building a weapon to attack the city. She then asks for Tally's help one more time, before sending her back to the dormitory to sleep on it. Tally goes back to her room to think things over, and is soon greeted by her friend Paris at the window. She gives him a hug and then asks him for his advice on her situation, as she doesn't want to sell out her friend. Paris says that he thinks she should help the doctor find Shay, just in case she's really in trouble, and Tally reluctantly agrees. She meets with the doctor again the next day, agreeing to help her find Shay. The doctor gives her a small necklace with a tracker in it, just in case she finds herself in trouble. Tally then sets out to find the Smoke, following the instructions that Shay had given her. The road to the Smoke proves to be quite dangerous, with her needing to climb sheer cliffs and rely on her hoverboard to help her make the journey. She eventually finds herself in a sea of white orchids, and the instructions tell her to lay down there for the night. We next see Paris and Dr. Cable talking in her office, with Paris telling the doctor that he's been having strange feelings since seeing Tally again. The doctor tells him that there is a special procedure he can go through that will help him get rid of those feelings and also make him even more perfect than he already is. He agrees to the procedure, and they start immediately. As he steps into one of the surgical tubes, snake-like arms reach out and clamp around his wrists, holding him in place as the tube starts to fill with gas. The doctor watches closely as they begin the operation. We next see Tally waking up in a fire, with the field of orchids burning down around her. She gets saved by a man who introduces himself as David, and he immediately starts to scan her belongings, looking for trackers from the city. He finds one in her hoverboard, but doesn't find the one in her necklace. He then brings her back to a camp he has set up nearby, and Tally is reunited with Shay. Shay convinces Tally to come back to the smoke with them, but says they need to burn some more flowers before they go. David explains that the flowers are what's killing the planet, and he invites her along so she can see for herself. They head out in an old helicopter that the group was able to salvage, and Tally sees a thick line of orchids that are slowly eating away at the lush forest, turning it into a desolate wasteland. They then use a flamethrower mounted on the helicopter to start burning down the field. As they fly down lower to investigate some new heat signatures that pop up on their scanners, Shay suddenly falls out of the helicopter, with Tally quickly sliding down a rope to try to save her. She manages to locate Shay quickly and gets her back over to the rope, with some pretties in blue suits running after them through the flames. David yells for the pilot to pull them up right at the last minute, with Tally and Shay being just out of range of the pretties grasping for their legs. They then make their way back to the smoke, and Tally sees that they've managed to build an entire community out in the wilderness. She spends the next several days getting to know the people of the village and doing her part to help with the work. After a while, she decides to ask David about the weapon the doctor had mentioned, wondering what she could possibly be talking about. David then asks her to follow him, and he leads her back to his parents' house. Once inside, his parents begin to tell her the dark truth about the procedure that is making everyone in the city look pretty. While it appears the surgery has been helping people in some ways, it has also been damaging everyone's brains, making them more docile and easier to control. They tell her that they both used to work with Dr. Cable once upon a time, but when they tried to put a stop to the surgeries, they became hunted by their own government and were forced to flee into the wilderness. They tell her that they've been working on a cure ever since, but are missing a key ingredient they can only get from the lab in the city. That night, Tally makes the decision to help the people of the smoke, throwing her tracking necklace into the fire. The next morning, Tally and David awake to find airships flying overhead, and enhanced pretties in blue suits tearing through the village. Before long, most of the village has been captured, and we see that one of the enhanced pretties is Paris. Tally and David manage to stay hidden and watch from the outside as Dr. Cable steps off her ship and begins to talk to David's parents. When they refuse to give up the cure they've been working on, the doctor orders Paris to put an end to David's father, causing David and Tally to come out of hiding. The doctor then thanks Tally for leading them to the rebels and tells her that her surgery will be scheduled for the morning. Tally then makes a run for it, grabbing a crossbow and blowing up a building behind her. In the commotion, David is able to escape as well, and the doctor tells Paris to let them go. Tally and David then regroup in a nearby cave and come up with a plan to save their friends, knowing that they need to act fast. They recruit some uglies from the dormitory to create a distraction for them, and then use the opening that's created to sneak into the lab. They manage to make it to the holding cells and release the prisoners, reuniting David with his mother, but find out that they've already taken Shay to surgery. Tally says that she has a plan to save Shay, but she's going to need everyone's help. David and his mother follow Tally to the surgery center, but it appears they are too late, with Shay having already undergone the operation. Dr. Cable then walks in behind them, telling them that now it's their turn to get the procedure. The three of them are then forced into the surgical tubes, with the snake-like metal arms holding them in place. Suddenly, a helicopter appears in the window behind them, spraying bursts of fire from its onboard flamethrower into the room. The fire burns the doctor and breaks the glass of the tubes, allowing everyone to escape. David's mother grabs the missing part of the cure from a container in the lab before they make their way out of the now burning building. Once outside the building, they are confronted by Paris, leading to a battle between him and David. As Paris starts to overpower David, Tally is forced to push him over the edge of the building with some help from her hoverboard. She then runs over to see him barely hanging onto the edge, and he tells her he's sorry before the concrete breaks and he falls to his death. The group then escapes the city on their hoverboards, regrouping with the others in the ruins outside the city. David's mother is excited to test the cure on Shay now that they have both parts of it, but Shay tells them that she doesn't want it, and they don't want to force her to take it since there could be side effects. Tally then volunteers to undergo the surgery herself and then test the cure after, since she understands the risks and can agree to it ahead of time. They all agree that she is probably the best candidate they are going to find, so they decide to help her get back into the city to undergo the procedure. In the final scene, we see Tally in a large apartment in the city, talking to an AI voice inside of her house. We see that she has had the surgery, and she tells the AI that she is enjoying her new pretty life, all the while looking down at the scar in her hand. Like and subscribe to see more videos like this one. See you next time.